Okay, looks like we're streaming, I believe. I hope you all, I'm sorry for the wait as usual. Takes a little while to get here, as always. Waiting for the image to come up to make sure we are streaming. Should be. I don't see myself. Anyway, this is movie crap. Why? Huh. Oh. There we go. Sorry, it took a while for my end to do that. Not sure what that was about. Anyway, let me just tell everybody on the various social medias, and then we'll get started on this episode of Movie Crap Live. Thank you all for being here. Sorry for the beginning thing. Yeah, a little crazy night. Always a crazy night, I guess, in this house. But away we go. Hello, welcome. I'm out here this time. Let me lower this a little. There we go. All right. Thank you so much for being here on the 10th episode of Movie Crap Live. I can't believe we've made it this far, unless I'm counting wrong. But I hope I kept my word from last week. Same powers. I'm nervous about what that meant, but I hope I am going to. This is going to be an interesting show. I'm actually going to show images in certain stories, but they will be later on. I have a lot to get to. We are back to the bookcase. I'm actually going to change this room around soon, so it might be a little different in the future. I'm going to drink some water. I see Ace the Wind Rider in there. But if you're not watching this live, thank you for watching. Either way, it's always appreciated. Anyone's support is cool. And yeah, so before we fully get into it, let me tell you that I actually, believe it or not, have a sponsor for real. No joke. It is in the description of this stream. It is audibletrial.com/moviecrap. If you would like to support the show and don't have, can't afford to do, you can't afford to do Super Chat or Patreon or something, it's a nice alternative, and you can listen to audiobooks, and it's a great way to support the show. There's also a link to the Patreon, which also supports the show as well. So anyway, but it is an Audible 30-day free trial. Just sign up. The link is in the description, and I will do another thing before. I would recommend the Genndy Tartakovsky interview, which is all about his thing there. Which is all about his life. I do have, motherfucker, I got Red Bulls. Don't test me. I just start off with water. We can't just be, you just can't be doing it. All right? Come on. I saw that in the chat. That doesn't mean big Jim. I mean, I am a large person, but all right. I don't know why I'm getting so confrontational all of a sudden about that. But I want to thank everybody because we've made it 10 episodes, and I think everyone's been amazingly supportive. And for whatever reason, you know what's weird about this stream thing? I reset to make sure it doesn't do the whole out of focus nonsense, and then it's like, yeah, I'm out of focus. I don't know. All right, anyway. You know what? Maybe I'll have a Red Bull. It's been a long day. I got up at 5 a.m. So that's how I roll, man. Jim is being a meanie. The miscast thing, I'm sorry, I don't think I thought about it as much as I should, but I'll think about it during the show. I came up with one. All right, before we get into it, Zane Powers, I will answer it. You know it was a really miscast movie? The Rock in Snitch. He shouldn't have been in that movie, and there's a part where these guys beat The Rock up, and they're not as passionate about... They're not as passionate. They're not as muscular as The Rock, and it's like the least believable thing I've seen in my life. It's actually an interesting movie because it brings up a whole thing about drug trafficking and stuff and the unfairness of that and how people are. Anyway, I remember people talking about that, but it was like totally ridiculous because he's supposed to be a defenseless dad, but he's like The Rock, so that would be my answer. I came up with it. Thank you. Hey, William Ellman is here. Hello. And Ryan Walterson, and a lot of people. Anyway, thank you everyone who's being here. If I ever do not see you or recognize you and you would like me to, I deeply apologize. Please message me and say something, and I will try to notice you next time. There's a lot going on when I do these streams. So anyway, wow, 1 million. Thank you, Carter. I would like that too. That'd be cool. All right, so our first story. Oh, and also before I keep delaying, and I'm sorry about that. Thank you everyone who sent me a story this week. It helps me understand what you want to hear and what to do with the show. So if there's ever a news story, if it's a huge news story, maybe don't bother because but if it doesn't matter actually. Just let me know if I tweet something and you're like, "Hey, please cover this." Just let me know because it lets me know what you guys are into and we can have a better show and we can all progress together. Yes, Untitled Project is here. I thought I heard a cat meow. I might have to get up to let a cat out of a room someone is sleeping in. But until then, let's start off with our first story, which is Jared Leto's freak out about the Joker. Now, this is self-destructive on a next level kind of thing that I honestly can't believe. He apparently was very upset about what happened, that there was going to be a Joker movie that wasn't starring Mr. Leto himself. And he actually called his agents, his regular agents, his music agents, basically anyone who would listen to him to try to cancel this project and end it. And supposedly Warner Brothers was actually not totally into the Joker movie. That's why they actually gave it such a low budget, because they thought like, well, maybe, he won't want to do it if it's a low budget. And Todd Phillips was like, no, I actually still want to do it, so thank you. And they're like, God damn it. Oh, okay, fine. Which was an interesting part of this story. This is a Hollywood Reporter story, but apparently Jared Leto, his agents in CAA, which is one of the big agencies, if you weren't aware of that industry stuff, he burned through them, and they already didn't think, didn't really, I think it was this fourth team of agents he had been through, and everyone was sort of sick of his stupid shit, and Warner Brothers was actually sick of his dumb shit and his behavior on set, and a lot of people apparently were already sick of his behavior, and this was kind of like the final straw. And then he called he had apparently Irving Azoff, who's one of the greatest music managers of all time and one of the greatest ones in the industry, and asked him to call the head of Warner Brothers and kill this project because he felt he was strung along about doing a solo Joker movie. It was probably killed because he was a dick and he was sending people weird stuff and his behavior was completely ridiculous. So I find it so hilarious that he definitely did not take this very well, and he actually left his agency because they were kind of sick of him and he was mad at them. He lost his music manager. He basically, like, whatever shred of like industry recognition this guy had went away by his Joker freakout, which is frankly hilarious. Like, Jared Leto is just such a pretentious fuck, and it's just like this story. It's so funny. He just, like, his ego could not stop himself from, like, destroying this, and he wouldn't be in the Birds of Prey movie. He was just upset that they're making a Joker movie without him, but I think no one told him that, like, his Joker was the worst Joker. I mean, I can't think of a worse Joker than what Jared Leto did. And it just didn't work out for him. And apparently Warner Brothers didn't like what he did and didn't like his behavior. And they kind of just moved on and went with Joaquin Phoenix. And it probably also sucked because Joaquin Phoenix is an infinitely better actor than Jared Leto. And he was probably upset about that as well. But I mean, man, he really burned all the bridges he had left to make a point about this. It was frankly ridiculous. I'm liking all the jokes and the... People bring up the 30 Seconds to Mars thing from Popstar. I don't think anyone can be pro Jared Leto right now. Thanks, Ryan Walterson. Man, this is interesting. But yeah, Jared Leto it was just a funny story. It was like, wow, you just like, I heard he was like, because before we heard he was like a little upset and stuff like that, but apparently he was just calling everybody. Like, it was one thing to get drunk one night and bemoan about it and get over it. It's another thing to act like he acted. But anyway, so now we're going to move on to kind of 3 stories in a row about kind of being banned in various countries, or mainly China and Vietnam. South Park was banned in China and basically taken away from their internet, which is pretty crazy if you ask me, because of an episode recently, which I, in all fairness, did not see. But basically, they criticize how American corporations kind of bend to the will of China, just to like make money there, and they make a ton of money there. I think Endgame made about 600 million of its big box office international take there. Like it is a major hub of money, but South Park made fun of it, and then of course it was more like pointing out what they already do. I don't think they, frankly, and I know there's been a lot of protests and it's become much more political issue, and frankly I shouldn't speak on that because I don't know enough about it, but I'm not like really pro-communist the way they're doing it, but I don't know enough about all of that to really make a statement on it. But yeah, so South Park was completely stripped away from the entire internet of China, and you can't find any forum discussions, you can't find any videos of it because of that, and they made kind of like a funny apology about it, and South Park's kind of doing it in stride. In other South Park news, before I talk about other things that were banned, South Park apparently is trying to fetch a huge streaming deal. They're currently on Hulu, so you don't need to correct me on that, but they are trying to look at what Seinfeld did, what Friends did, what The Office did, and get like a $500 million payday for the streaming rights of South Park. And because they're with Viacom, who does not really have a streaming service right now, it looks like that's a possibility that they could do. And that's kind of one of the pros of being with a company who doesn't have just their own streaming service, is you can go out to get these huge paydays. So in some ways, I think South Park is actually, it's really going to work out for them, because now they're in the news, they're sparking debate. I'm sure this is going to help other episodes, and they're getting a lot of headlines because of it. But it'll be interesting. I mean, Viacom will get a lot of that $500 million, but Trey and Matt will be paid. Don't worry. I mean, not that they're hurting or anything. Next, in things being banned from China, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is apparently was barred from release in China. No, to be clear before we get into this, no one has an official reason. So anyone who said, like, these are reasons that people think, but no one's officially come on the record and said, unless that happened between when I read this and started doing the stream. But apparently they had objections to the allegedly, I guess, the Bruce Lee sequence, and supposedly his daughter contacted the China officials who decide, the film ministry or whatever, to kind of dissuade them from doing that. This is a huge blow for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because of all the first dollar deals they have with not only Tarantino but DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. So it actually has to make a certain amount of money to break even, and they had to make more than $400 million worldwide, which currently that film did not do, and they really needed it to open in China. However, Tarantino has final cut legally, and he chose not to cut out the sequence, and therefore it will not play in China, which is a huge blow. I agree with him artistically, and although I think I knew people who worked with Bruce Lee, and they said he did sort of have an ego. I was a little surprised by so much of the backlash, and people were like, well, there's a reason he had the ego. And I'm like, I agree there is a reason. He was fucking Bruce Lee. He was amazing. But at the same time, I don't know. I agree with the people who disagree, who don't like it, but I also think sometimes this got a little out of hand, because he's obviously playing more of a kind of a caricature, and I don't, he did sort of act like that is on the record, but it doesn't seem like anyone really likes that. It's also something to consider. The brand of Bruce Lee needs him not to be that way, and there's a lot of money. If his estate doesn't like that, they probably don't like how it's being portrayed, since they make money off t-shirts, posters, and everything like that. Just saying. I think, so it's not coming out in China. It's a huge blow for Sony, and it might be harder for him to make those mega deals Tarantino made with this one, where he gets the copyright back in 25 years. because of this, because he wasn't able to do this and get released. And his last film he almost had released in China was Django Unchained, and that got pulled right before the end there. Sorry, my nose keeps itching. I'm just touching it. I'm not picking it. I didn't need to this way. I'm going to have a Red Bull. Anyway, sorry, that was weird. Anyway, in getting banned from a country that isn't China news, so no Star Trek. Well, I don't know about that Star Trek thing. We don't know, but I wouldn't put money on it. Oh, we have a super chat. Okay. According to a source from New York Comic Con, Season 2 of Hilda will probably air in September 2020. Thank you, Connor Johnson. That's very nice of you. Appreciate the super chat and supporting the show, and I will drink a Red Bull to you. I had heard the fall, but I hadn't heard September 2020, so that was a very nice little exclusive there. Thank you very much. All right, so next up, I'm going to talk about Abominable being banned from Vietnam because of a map that kind of didn't portray the South China Sea correctly. That is just in one sequence. I'm a little surprised that because it's barely in the movie. It's very, very quickly in there, but I had heard complaints from people, and even when I saw it, I noticed like they don't really acknowledge like that they're going into Tibet in certain sequences, that they're going through this country. They don't really get into that. I did like that they're showing children, a different region of the world than you normally see, or a fantastical world or something. They're showing some, especially American kids, they're seeing something they normally wouldn't. I think that's great. But in Vietnam and in Asian countries where the film was actually made, that is obviously different, and people didn't like how that was being portrayed, so Vietnam banned Abominable. So Abominable was banned from Vietnam just after being there for a little bit. I think, honestly, I'm a little surprised they didn't think that would be a problem, but I also am surprised it took off so quickly because it is just one shot. But I guess I don't really fully understand the geopolitical nature of that, so I'm assuming when people saw that, it upset them immediately, and of course I did not notice that. But it's interesting because that studio was made to appeal directly to the Asian market, and from DreamWorks, that studio, the Pearl Studio, was specifically put into China to appeal to more stuff like that. And it's also been banned in Malaysia and the Philippines, according to Ryan Walterson. So it's kind of not doing too well with Abominable, unfortunately. That's sad because I thought that was a sweet little movie, but they should have maybe portrayed that not so generally, because that seems to have upset a lot of people. All right, now moving on from banned stuff to Disney Plus. Now Disney Plus released literally, it was like a 3-hour video of stuff because they released the full slate. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about the slate, and I wanted to bring it up actually, is that in the slate we kept hearing that The Simpsons were not going to be at launch, and then suddenly the launch slate had The Simpsons. So I'm a little confused about that, but I think they realized like that's one of the greatest shows to have on a streaming service, so of course you'd want it. So I guess maybe they went like, fuck it, let's just put Simpsons on there. But there is a video that is 3 hours. It's literally just promo segments randomly put together. I know like there's various YouTubers who would watch the whole thing and things like that. I thought that was a little silly, to be honest with you, but it is going to have like a ridiculous amount of stuff. You can just look at the list. A lot of kind of B grade kind of Disney movies from the 70s, which I definitely appreciate. A lot of like animated 90s Marvel shows, a lot of stuff like that, but they have released like this full slate of things. There's nothing that was too sticking out to me. Surprising they didn't have a lot of Muppet stuff. They should have had more of that. They should have had I don't know. I'm interested in the slate, but it's like they didn't have Iron Man 2, so I was like, I mean, that's fine with me. They had Iron Man 1 and 3. It seems like they're just kind of launching with whatever they can launch, and I'm curious about some more of the obscure titles. One thing that's sort of related to this, and it wasn't on my script, but I'm just going to mention it. The podcast You Must Remember This is going to do a long series actually on Song of the South. That's presented by Karina Longworth, who's actually the wife of Ryan Johnson. And She has a lot of good resources in. Oh, hello, Twitter. She has a lot of good resources in the Academy Library and other things like that. And she's also very good at researching various topics. And I often find when she covers something that I've already covered, she does a much better job at it because she can do that. But she's very good at it, and I think it's going to be an interesting series. And it's going to get into Disney's history of that and the history of the movie. I think that'll be really cool. And why it got banned, obviously. And I think it's going to go into stuff Defunctland even did. So we'll see who covered that element of it better. But this is obviously more about the movie and less about Splash Mountain. Anyway, moving over from that Disney Plus thing. There was a Lady and the Tramp trailer. Obviously, I guess because they're announcing a lot of stuff with Disney Plus, it looked pretty much what you'd expect. They kind of have the spaghetti kissing scene, but not really. And you could see the We Are Siamese cats, so I was a little like, what? Like, they're definitely in it, but they're not gonna do We Are Siamese, like, right? They're not gonna do that. It's also, it's a little weird, like, that movie takes place, like, in the early 20th century, and, like, having an interracial couple, like, I don't think you could get away with that in suburban Massachusetts then, but I don't know, maybe they get into that, but I was a little like, I mean, I would like for that to have happened, but it just, if you're going to do your whole, like, historical realism thing, I don't think that would entirely work. But whatever. Next up, sorry. I don't know. The Lady and the Tramp just doesn't really look that great to me. I wouldn't mind reviewing the original around that time. I hadn't really considered it, but we'll see. Another project that had been announced is, oh God, Ryan, you're right. The cats in the original are called Cy and Am. Yeah, it's mad hard to make that not racist. Wow, someone's driving a motorcycle out there. You'd think they would just get rid of that? I mean, I don't. They definitely didn't look like they were not the Siamese cats. I would have just not had that part. I don't know. But, Disney's like, but that's what's so recognizable. Our racism. All right, so next. Next up, Robert Zemeckis is apparently in talks, or is going to direct, the Pinocchio remake for Disney. He's finishing a project, he's far enough along that he felt he could commit to something else. I'm not really, like, I wanted Robert Zemeckis when he was in talks to do The Flash. I thought that was a really cool idea because they're doing Flashpoint, and I thought that could be interesting. This is kind of like late stage Zemeckis and not something I'm that interested in. I'm sure he'll do an interesting job with the special effects, but I don't know. Previously, and a lot of people are reading into this now, Tom Hanks was previously up for Geppetto in a different version, and he had turned it down. So we'll see. Maybe he'll get re-interested in it, but as of right now, he is not attached to the Pinocchio movie as Geppetto, but maybe with Zemeckis there, he'll change his mind. Maybe. I don't know. But people seem to think that, but he had previously decided not to attach himself to it. So Addams Family 2 has been announced really quickly. It's going to come out on October 22nd, 2021. It is, I'm a little surprised how quick they approved this, but clearly, this did better than they expected it to, and it looks like it's going to do well overall, despite it being the movie it is. We know absolutely nothing about it, but it's in the works for fall 2021. It's probably going to try to do the similar thing to the Hotel Transylvania movies, because they realized they saw how profitable those were, but if you made them worse. So that's what Addams Family is. After that, I just found this out from the director of Conrad Vernon. Apparently, he is still attached to do a Jetsons movie, a Jetsons animated movie. Or he was still, from what I've read, was still attached pretty recently. So that's something that he's still considering. We'll see if that Jetsons movie happens. But I saw that in a few articles. It was kind of like, oh, maybe we'll see what happens with that. That could be interesting. All right, so now we have a bunch of Netflix news. And this is the most exciting news, honestly, of the whole week. Bone is going to be an animated series at Netflix. We have absolutely no knowledge of who's going to be involved whatsoever. We have no idea what they're going to do with it, what the plan is, but Jeff Smith has signed on. They're going to do it. I think it is a possibility that, you know, they might get someone from Hilda would be what I would like the most, but I also don't want them to not do Hilda. But I think that Netflix is the perfect place for Bone. I think it has a good possibility of being what it really needs to be at Netflix. And obviously, because they're the people who made Hilda, they really believe in animation. They have a lot of really great animated shows on Netflix. So I think Bone is a really good place for it. And I think it could break out from Netflix as well. So I'm really excited for it. I was a fan of the comic. I'd never read all of it. But I think Bone will be... Jim, can we get the Bone zone? I forgot about that joke. But I think Bone will be... I think it'll be really cool. I'm excited for that at Netflix. Next up I have three projects that were delayed or canceled on streaming services in a row. It's been crazy out there, but let's do this. So John Cho, they just started shooting the Cowboy Bebop TV live action show. Apparently they did like a thing being like, hey, we're shooting video, which I didn't hear anything about whatsoever, but I did hear about this. John Cho injured his leg in a freak accident, and the Cowboy Bebop remake, live action remake thing will be delayed by 7 to 9 months, which I'm sorry for John Cho, but I'm a little like I didn't really want to see that, so I'm okay with it never happening, but I guess it's still happening, and it's going to be delayed by 7 to 9 months. I hope John Cho gets better because I like John Cho. Thank you, Carter Wright, for being here. It was very nice to have you. But John Cho, yes, John Cho is injured, and it looks like whenever the Cowboy Bebop show is going to come out, it's going to be even later than we originally saw. Next is Alexander Payne was going to have a Netflix movie. Yes, Alexander Payne was going to have a Netflix movie with Mads Mikkelsen about a guy who went on a road trip with his daughter, I believe. And it was based on a true story. The guy whose true story it was based on hadn't completely signed on with the rights and decided to pull his rights last minute. They were about a week away from shooting, and it has been officially canceled. This is the second project for Alexander Payne that has been completely canceled recently. He had one called Menu with... I always hear he's going to reunite with Reese Witherspoon, and he never does, so I don't know what's going on there. But yes, he was going to have a big Netflix movie with Mads Mikkelsen, which sounded interesting casting, and I kind of liked that they were going to do something different with Mads Mikkelsen. And Alexander Payne is always interesting when he casts people, and I thought it would have been cool, but it sounds like it's not happening at all now. So unless they can figure out a way to talk to the guy who has the rights, as of right now, it is completely canceled, and Alexander Payne does not have a movie. He has other things in development. All right, anyway, we have a fun fact from Austin T-Rex. Fun fact, Peter Weller, after getting the part of RoboCop, trained with a mime coach in hockey gear in Central Park to get the movements right. Thank you very much for that fun fact and the super chat, Austin T-Rex. I'm going to have a Red Bull to you. I think when I do that, it fucks the focus up, so I should just go like here. Interesting enough about that fun fact there, I know a lot about RoboCop, and he actually did that, and then when he got to set and got the suit on, he realized all of that time was worthless, and he didn't use any of it in the movie. True story. Which I always think is funny. It shows how committed Peter Weller is. He's a great actor. Thank you for the super chat and for the support, Austin T-Rex. Now, next up, another thing. Well, there's a lot of streaming news this week. Another streaming thing is Melissa McCarthy had a movie called Super Intelligent, who was supposed to come out on Christmas. None of us had seen a trailer for it. Apparently, there was a trailer at CinemaCon, but it didn't play before anything. I remember looking at the release date a week ago, the release slate for the rest of the year, and thinking why hasn't this we haven't seen anything from this. And I thought maybe I just missed the trailer or something like that. Apparently it's actually more of a PG Melissa McCarthy movie, but it's directed by her husband, and her husband doesn't have the greatest rep for directing movies with her. In fact, he's usually they're usually pretty fucking terrible. So I don't know, but apparently it's going to be a launch title for HBO Max, which means it's going to now come out in March, so it is getting delayed. But I think it's also because HBO, I mean, they claim, and Ben Falcone claims, it was their choice, and they didn't want to release it, and they wanted it to get to be on a streaming service rather than theatrical or something. But I don't buy that crap. I think the studio was like, this is awful. No one at CinemaCon seemed to like it. I hadn't heard any good buzz, and they just like, the studio. I think what's going to happen, these riskier, weirder films that aren't working out, they're just going to put them on streaming services. In some ways, it might loosen things up, like how Warner's does with their on-demand services. They just are like this, like what the Banana Splits movie or Teen Titans Go, like they have a whole system ready to go for their weirder cult stuff. And it seems like other companies are going to start doing that just for the streaming service. So we might actually get cooler movies, or their worst movies won't be such financial bombs or something like that. So I think it's interesting what's happening, but it sounds like just much like Cloverfield Paradox. They didn't want to spend all that advertising money on something like this, and so they don't have to. So I wanted to talk about the Studio Ghibli thing because it's sort of interesting. Because literally one day it was like Studio Ghibli has no plans for streaming, and I think this was all started because there was a article in Screen Crush on movies that have surprisingly never gone to streaming, and they put Studio Ghibli, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought some of them had, but maybe I was wrong. But anyway, I know Mary and the Witch's Flower is on Netflix though, but that's not Studio Ghibli, obviously. But HBO Max apparently gobbled up those rights the next day. And actually, the Slash Filmcast had an interesting debate on whether Studio Ghibli should be streaming and everything like that, and why it's good for movies to be streaming, and how you can get everyone should have access to them, be able to see Studio Ghibli. And I agree, because I saw most Studio Ghibli the first time on home video, and then saw a lot of it in theaters. And I think, as most people, they kept talking about preserving the theatrical experience, but I don't know. Apparently the only thing that's different, like Grave of the Fireflies won't be in there because I think that's handled by a different distributor, and The Wind Rises won't be on until the fall for some reason. I couldn't find out why. But yeah, it is interesting that they made kind of a quite big public stink through G Kids about how they will not do streaming, and they preserve the theatrical experience, and then like the next day went, oh well, we're actually signed to HBO Max, so whatever. And I was a little like, why did you do that? Like, I don't like, you clearly knew it was gonna. I don't understand how that all went down. It's just very weird, the whole situation with that. But most of the Studio Ghibli films will be on HBO Max. A lot of people have questions about Ocean Waves and the more obscure ones. From my understanding, a lot of them will be. It'll probably be worked out through G Kids through that. I think it's a big get for HBO Max. HBO Max, I noticed, between like The West Wing and this and other things, are really trying to show like, hey, we have movies. We got the movies. We're like FX, but a streaming service. And they're sorry, that was a dumb joke. But they're really pushing that whole thing. All right, so next up, Netflix actually released a list of what their most watched shows were. For real. They never really do this. Most watched shows and movies. I think you can guess what the most watched show is, which is Stranger Things, which is about 60 million views, which is a lot. And then Bird Box was the most watched movie with 80. Oh, this link's not loading. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so Stranger Things with 64 million views is the most watched show ever on Netflix. I was surprised the Umbrella Academy is so high on there. Same with like Dead to Me, and Sex Education was number 5 with 40 million. Top films, Bird Box was number 1 with 80 million views. Murder Mystery with 73. Triple Frontier. Oh, Niji Kichu's here. I'm nice to see you. I'm glad that you're here. All right, let me read this fun fact. Fun fact for the original Terminator, James Cameron sprayed acid on Arnold Schwarzenegger's James Cameron sprayed acid on Arnold Schwarzenegger's clothing so it would appear that he was on fire smoking. I didn't know that. Man, that's a good fun fact, Niji Kichu. Thank you for joining us, and this Red Bull is for you. Does anyone drink along with me during this? I wonder. Anyway, your audio desynced. I've noticed sometimes it does that. That's more of a... I don't really want to stop it. Anyway, I noticed it does that. I'm still learning. But yeah, I noticed streaming does that sometimes. All right, let me finish with the most watched things. The other interesting thing, thank you for the support, Nijikichu. It's very appreciated. Thank you very much. The other interesting thing is Triple Frontier, which I did a review for. It seems like nobody really cared, to be honest with you. Apparently, it's been watched 52 million times. I sort of doubt that because I know very few people have seen Triple Frontier. Maybe I don't know those people. Always Be My Maybe, 32 million. There's like the Fire Festival was the 10th most watched movie. Anyway, I thought it was interesting that they actually released numbers, but surprise, surprise, Stranger Things still doing well. All right, so let's talk about the thing that I'm sure you've been waiting a whole week for me to talk about, and that is Dr. Dolittle. Yeah, so let's get into it. First, let's talk about the trailer, which dropped the next day after the stream, because after the last stream, after I talked about the poster, it was really bad. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I don't know why they didn't do Talk with the Animals and did the what a wonderful whatever song they did. It wasn't Talk to the Animals. It looked pretty horrible. Apparently, it was originally called The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, and you know, it's a major project for Robert Downey and his production company. I think it was like Downey Productions. The only other film seriously that they have made is The Judge. And I find it kind of interesting that Robert Downey Jr., you know, we always hear about how he's the biggest movie star on the planet, but he can't really open a movie where he's not Iron Man. Like, he just really hasn't, other than like the Sherlock Holmes movies and Due Date in like 2010 or 20, was that 2010 maybe? He really like hasn't what? Oh, I don't know what that person... Anyway, that confused me. Sorry. No, it was about... Wow, I thought this was going to be all View programming and not so much their Netflix catalog. Oh, well. Anyway. Sorry. So, Dr. Dolittle, back to... That threw me off. I was confused by it. So, Dr. Dolittle, yeah, it's kind of interesting because Robert Downey Jr. is considered a big star, and I know he makes a lot off the Marvel movies, but I don't think he, like, can open a movie, and I know a lot of studios have given him chances, and everyone... I know I joked about The Judge, but the reason I sort of joked about it because it was hyped up for so long. Like, this is his major big project, and he's such a movie star, and he can open a movie, and then it like flopped really hard. And I think this is going to be the case as well here. It's a shame because I think he has a lot of potential. He previously had 2 Paul Thomas Anderson movies in development, one a Pinocchio one that he was having him write, and then Louis PJ, I'm sorry, you're cool, I'm sorry I got confused. It's just interesting how much he... I don't know, just how he hasn't had anything work out. Oh, he's also almost in Incoherent Vice, but Joaquin Phoenix got that instead. He decided to bow out. He just, like, he could do interesting movies if he wanted to, and he's chosen not to. And doing Dolittle, I'm just confused by the whole thing, and clearly the studio knows it's a complete fuck-up despite costing $200 million. I'm not joking about that. But then was the Reddit stuff, which was... Wow, that was juicy there. According to the Reddit thing there, Dr. Dolittle, the director of that, who previously directed Syriana, so I'm not sure why he's doing Dr. Dolittle, but whatever. He apparently was a whole terror on set. He didn't know where the animals were going to stand around Robert Downey Jr. most of the time. He would yell at the crew. He wouldn't talk to the previs people or any of the special effects people, despite this being a special effects heavy movie. And apparently when the test audiences didn't work, they brought in other directors to sort of fix it and tinker it with it. I'd always heard this film had a lot of production problems, and I'm a little surprised Hollywood would try to do this, because the Rex Harrison one from 1967 had a slew of problems with it and was really not that big of a hit. It was a huge sort of disaster, despite Eddie Murphy's the only one who's like done well with a Dr. Dolittle ever in film. But I don't really get what Robert Downey Jr. is getting out of this, but it sounds like a whole mess, and they treated the crew badly, and the director was a whole drama queen. I think also the director, if you look, he did like Syriana, and George Clooney won an Oscar. It's actually the first movie I saw with my wife, believe it or not. And then he didn't make another movie till Gold with Matthew McConaughey, and I always wondered, why doesn't that guy work more? And I'm like, oh, because he's a dick. That's why. So this movie sounds like a disaster. I can't wait to see it because it sounds awful. But I wish Robert Downey Jr. would, you have all the money in the world. I know he doesn't want to do small movies anymore. He said that quite a few times. But he should do like interesting stuff, because I feel like he could do something interesting, and he just kind of refuses to because he's Iron Man. He doesn't want to, and I get it. But I'm also like, then just be Iron Man. Don't do crap like this. Like, this looks exactly like The Judge all over again. Like, nobody wants that. I just don't get it. But yeah. And I forgot to mention this. One of the things in the Reddit was about how the director had a dog who was a nice, pristine, like beautiful looking dog. And apparently the dog would bark at anyone who wasn't white. So anyone who had the least bit of ethnicity, the dog would bark at. Apparently he was a very racist dog. He had a racist dog on the set of Dr. Dolittle. That was in the Reddit thing. Yeah. I wonder if he could hear what that dog would say, but I feel like that would not make it in the movie. I don't know. Anyway. So, I don't do a ton of casting news usually, but there's been a lot of interesting casting this week. Sorry, I know no one did the super chat, but I need energy. I just found this weird. Neil Patrick Harris has been cast in The Matrix 4. A lot of people are saying it's a villain. No one really knows, but Neil Patrick Harris is in The Matrix 4. So, yeah, I just find that to be very interesting. It's like the one casting news out of The Matrix 4 that I'm like, other than Keanu and all that I'm like, interesting. I'm very interested. That makes me the most interested in The Matrix 4. Man, we have a lot of stuff to get through tonight, and it is already kind of late. Oh, well. All right, so Jonah Hill was almost in the Batman and then wasn't. No one's sure what role he was going to take. There were all these rumors that, like, maybe he was the Penguin. Maybe he wanted to be the Riddler. Maybe he was almost the Penguin and then heard about the Riddler, and the Riddler was more central and he wanted the Riddler, or then he wanted the Penguin. No one's sure, but one thing everyone can agree on is that apparently he wanted $10 million, which was about double what Robert Pattinson was going to make, which is $5 million. And apparently really wanted like a Jack Nicholson-esque deal from what he got from being the Joker in the 1989 Batman. But here's the thing about that is Jack Nicholson could open a movie. Jack Nicholson was a movie star, and they needed him because superhero movies weren't a thing. Hollywood has changed since 1989, and Jonah Hill needed to wake the fuck up and realize, one, he hasn't starred in a movie that's opened huge in a long time, so he can't play that shit. He should have just gone with the 5, but he didn't do that, and I think it worked out because we got Paul Dano has been officially announced to be doing the Riddler. Apparently they had always had someone else being considered, and we never knew who that was, and it was Paul Dano, and I think Paul Dano is a much better choice. But it shows you, like, there's a lot of, like, movie star ego failure this week. They're basically stopping their careers because of their own stupid egos, and I think Jonah Hill needed to wake up and realize, like, it's not. I understand it's a superhero movie. I understand you want to get paid, but at the same time, think of it within reason. You're Jonah Hill. You're not like if he was opening huge movies and like, I mean, think about it. Do you know anyone who would be like, oh, Jonah Hill's in a Batman movie, I'm definitely going? They're like, oh, there's a new Batman movie, and Warner Brothers knows that. And they treated him as such, and rightfully so, frankly. All right. Jesus, I didn't realize how much stuff. There's a lot of stuff I can like riff on for a while. I didn't realize this. Oh well. All right. I'm sorry that this is so long this time. I'm already like this. I guess it's not that long. I shouldn't complain. So if you want to question, I'm sorry if this is taking a while. I hope you can stay up with me until we're done. Because there's a lot of news this week. I guess there is. So Kevin Feige has been given a promotion, and he is now the Chief Creative Officer of all of Marvel, which includes movies, TV, animation, theme parks, toothbrushes, and comics. I have no problem with him doing everything that is not comics because he's clearly very good at that. But at the same time, I kind of wonder, him running comics, like, he doesn't have a background in that. It makes me worried. I've noticed I haven't found anyone who has much reservations about that, but it makes me question, what he would do with the comics, and I'm a little curious what that's going to be like. I kind of feel like there might be some friction there. I'm a little wondering what's going to go on with that. So I don't know. We'll see about that. I semi worry about what's going to happen there. Another thing, and it's been kind of a thing a lot of people have been worrying about, is Deadpool 3 and what the hell is going on with Deadpool 3. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, but I don't know. Live stream sneezing, I guess. Apparently Ryan Reynolds did have a meeting at Marvel, and he is, it looks like it is probably going to happen. I know they're talking with him, and we'll see, but it looks most likely that Deadpool will be R-rated. Most people are saying it is, and they're trying to hint at that, but no one wants to be official about that. I didn't talk about this last week because I think it was out last week, I forget, but because of the Sonic snafu last time I did this, but I'm going to, here is the Sonic image, hold on. Here is the Sonic image that's out right now. This is what everyone thinks will be the redesign of Sonic. I think that is probably the case, to be honest with you. That's what I've heard, but we'll see if that truly happens. I think it is a possibility that's the image, but we'll see if it actually is. I think most likely it is. And here's another one of it. It looks that looks better, but it still looks like a shitty movie. I don't know. I feel like people want this to be real, but I kind of just think it's not gonna be good. So, those are the Sonic images that have leaked. I think, that does look better, but it still looks shit. So, I don't really know about the Sonic movie. I know I'm gonna see it. I just it looks like a better design, looks like more true to the character, but it's the Sonic movie. I mean, what do we expect from the blue blur there? All right, so next up, there's going to be a Galaxy Quest documentary. It's going to be a Fathom Events thing, and Screen Junkies apparently made it. And they're going to have a Fathom event thing for the 20th anniversary, which it actually got released on Christmas, but they're doing this thing before Christmas. So if you don't want to watch Sonic Galaxy Quest on Christmas, you don't have to. But yeah, it sounds interesting. It's interesting that they're getting into documentaries there with Screen Crush. All right, so the shortlist, or the submissions really, for Best Animated Feature have been released. Now that's kind of interesting in that a lot of things were not on there. Wonder Park, it's the year of Norm, and I noticed Norm of the North had 2 movies didn't get on there. What's the deal with the next Norm of the North movie? We don't have a release date, but I have a fun fact from Niji Kichu. Fun fact, Hugh Jackman has reportedly punched himself in the balls with the Wolverine claws many times. One occasion was when he was naked in Origins. Ouch. With the claws? I don't like that. But, I mean, it's funny, but I have balls, so that I felt that. Thank you, Niji Kichu. Sorry. That was funny. Alright, so of the movies that are on the kind of submission list, this is more movies than have ever been submitted before for this category, so it sounds like we're getting 5 nominees this year. But, so the Steven Universe movie didn't get there, Wonder Park didn't get there, Norm of the North got snubbed, not once, but twice, and possibly thrice if they get their shit together. But things that are on there, let's talk about that. Abominable, The Addams Family, Angry Birds 2, Boonwell and the Labyrinth of Turtles, which I know you guys are all super into, Frozen 2, of course, and then Primal. And Primal is actually, this is interesting. By the way, I need to do a review of Primal. You don't need to put that in the chat. I'm going to do one. It's just been a crazy week. But it is actually titled in here as Genndy Tarkovsky's Primal Tales of Savagery, which is interesting. Primal did do the full like Academy recognized kind of thing there. So they literally did it to a T. Steven Universe didn't do that, to my understanding. So I think that's why that's not nominated. Also, I Lost My Body in Klaus, about Netflix things, Lego Movie 2, which isn't going to get nominated, Missing Link, which I hope does, Promare, which I need to see, Secret Life of Pets 2, Spies in Disguise, The Magnificent Cake, which makes me hungry, White Snake, Upin and Ippin, The Lone Gibbon, Chris, Weathering with You, Toy Story 4, The Tower, and not Lion King, thank God. And I can hear a cat. No Arctic Dogs. No, you're right, Ryan Walterson. No Arctic Dogs. No Ugly Dogs. The Shaun the Sheep thing. I think that might get delayed, especially because it's not on here. I hear a cat meowing. I'm going to get the cat out, and then I think I might take a quick break, and then we will be right back with more movie crap. Hang tight. Hang tight. Ugh. Okay, we're back. What was going on in the chat? Love that shark. Thank you. Sucks that Rocco and Zim weren't submitted. Hey, that's a good point, Cornbread, actually. I wonder what Peel and Pauline are about. Pauline is about Pauline Kael. I'm not sure where Peel is. Anyway, sorry. That shark's the star. Thank you. What? That's true. Where is the Playmobil movie? I saw a trailer for that when I saw Addams Family. Saw a trailer for that finally in theaters. So, all right, let's. Cool. So moving on to more. Lots of movie news. Robert Eggers, who recently had his movie The Lighthouse come out. I haven't gotten to see it yet. I think that's going to be my Friday review next week. Or that's the plan right now, which probably will totally change. But Robert Eggers' next movie is going to be about Vikings. It's a Viking revenge movie taking place in Iceland. One of my favorite kind of revenge movies is actually an Icelandic Viking movie called When the Raven Flies, which you should definitely check out if you can ever get access to it. But Google it. Maybe it has more access. I have a DVD of it that I bought when I visited Iceland. It was a wonderful place to go. You should totally go there. But Robert Eggers' next movie is going to have both the Skarsgård brothers, one who is Pennywise, one who is in True Blood, and Nicole Kidman, and apparently Anna Taylor-Joy and Willem Dafoe. It sounds like it's going to be expensive, and Robert Eggers is a little weird and strange for a huge budget like that, so this sounds like maybe it won't happen, or be a huge disaster, or be really cool. Who knows? I didn't feed my cat Red Bulls. Don't worry. Okay. Next up, there was a thing about how Martin Scorsese said you'll never see a Scorsese's director's cut because he believes all theatrical cuts are director's cuts. He's Martin Scorsese. I'm sure he's had Final Cut forever, but he kind of feels the theatrical version is his director's cut. So if you ever wondered that, that's the deal with that, basically. And then he said some stuff about Marvel movies, but let's not get into that. I didn't know that. Ryan Walterson, that you have Icelandic descent. That's interesting. I did know about Lazy Town, trust me. So Ed Norton said something which I think is interesting, that he actually, everyone says Marvel movies are destroying movies and like blockbusters and all this stuff, and he brought up a good point that movie theaters are destroying modern cinema, which even though I go to a lot of movie theaters, I actually really agree with. He brought up that often the sound isn't presented the right way. The projection is projected dimly lit. They don't know what they're doing. They actually have they have very automated systems now. They don't have projectionists. And he was saying that is really what's hurting the theatrical experience. And yeah, that's actually a good quote, because I think especially AMC gets targeted a lot. But I've noticed it's also harder to get people to work in them because they can't have them. It's hard to run a theater, so I kind of don't like to harp on the theaters too much because it's just a difficult situation to be in general. But I think Ed Norton actually has a point. Unfortunately, I know there's certain theaters that care a lot of. I know there's certain movie theaters that do care a lot and try to do their best, and there's sometimes it just doesn't work out for you. But I think there are a lot of chains who have excelled on doing not the best job of presenting films, and I agree that is not helping the situation. Also, they're assholes in movie theaters, and trust me, I deal with that too. I tend to ignore it or get up and move. I know a lot of times you can't, and I've had those problems too. But I do agree that movie theaters are not doing the best job currently and need to kind of shape up. And that was honestly a good point from him. But I still like Untitled Project said objection, I'm destroying movies. I think that's funny. Next up, the Beast of the Southern Wild director, who I think we all forgot about, Ben Zittilin, and I loved Beast of the Southern Wild, has a new movie called Wendy. It is basically kind of a Peter Pan story that I didn't read enough of the plot details from Wendy's perspective, which sounds interesting, and I will see anything that he directs. It's coming out next year. I'm excited for it just because I like Beasts of Southern Wild, and I'm curious to see something else from him. I actually want to rewatch Beasts of Southern Wild now because it sounds cool. Next up, the cops are coming for me, if you can hear that. Elton John says Lion King was a huge disappointment, which I didn't need him to tell me that. I think I said pretty much that on Twitter. But he brought up that the music was such a big part of the original, and then when they made the live action remake, the music didn't live up to that. I agree that the music wasn't as good, and he brought up that the soundtrack didn't do as well as it didn't do as well as the original one. And I actually went to the Billboard chart to see, like, oh, well, it's probably like, number 56 or something. It's still probably doing well because Beyonce's on it. It's not in the Hot 100, and that wasn't too long ago that Lion King happened. I just think, like, that's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. I understand it's just a bunch of covers, but that soundtrack should have been doing better. And he's right, and they did do a poor job with those songs. And, I'm glad Elton John said something. I know Elton John doesn't give a fuck. And, I know he did a big event for Rocket Man for the Oscars, which I hope it gets some love because it was a good movie. But I'm glad he's at least speaking up about how bad it is. But I've noticed, like, people aren't really liking the Lion King. It's like not living, even the public who was like more for it originally, it's like people are clearly like, yeah, it didn't really work. So next up, Clueless, in maybe the worst pitched idea, hi Night Communism, in probably one of the worst ideas I've heard recently. They're going to do a dramatic TV version of Clueless. It's like Clueless meets Riverdale / Stupid, and it's going to have Clueless. It's going to have, like, Cher disappears and Dion has to find her. I think Clueless's whole point was its perspective on things, so changing that I don't think would work the same way Riverdale was, because that was, like, very ironic. I don't think this could really be ironic. It sounds really terrible. There was a previous Clueless TV show in the 90s. But I just, I don't know about this. It sounds really bad. I don't know. In other news, the next Rise of Skywalker trailer is going to come out Monday night, and then tickets for Rise of Skywalker will come out right after that trailer airs on Monday Night Football. So if you want to see the trailer or buy tickets, make sure you're available Monday night. There has been the Bombshell trailer came out. It is the new film directed by Jay Roach about Fox News. I would be interested in this if I was like a baby boomer who's obsessed with cable news. I think cable news is pretty stupid. I don't really get the point of watching it. It, like, just doesn't make sense. I've been on Twitter while cable news is playing. This is just an example. I've been on Twitter when cable news is playing, and I've literally gotten a headline, gotten several different takes on that headline, and then they decide to report on it. And it's sort of like, what? Why do we still have this? Like, we have technology. Like, this is stupid. So I know like boomers like get so obsessed with cable news, so I'm sure they will be so obsessed with this movie, and this will do well with Oscar stuff. But it's by Jay Roach, who previously did like Game Change and a bunch of those like HBO movies about politics that are pretty bland and aren't really very good. This looks like he got a bigger budget and better actors. Supposedly Charlize Theron's really great. Supposedly Nicole Kidman's really great. This movie fucking bores me, and I hope I don't have to see it. It doesn't get nominated for anything. But since older people vote for the Oscars, I think we'll have to, because cable news is the new World War II, and my cat needs to be quiet. Next up, Sam Raimi has finally announced a new movie. We know nothing about it other than it's a horror movie, which would be his first since whatever it was. Sorry, his last horror movie, and his first since Oz the Great and Powerful. Was it Drag Me to Hell? Yes. It sounds really cool. It's apparently like Castaway meets Misery. I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool that he's doing something again. Wow, there's a lot of things this week. I should stop saying that. I'm sorry. Apparently Chicken Run 2, which had previously been announced, is apparently in pre-production, so it is extra special, definitely happening. This was confirmed by someone who works at Aardman, so it sounds like it is coming along there. After that, we have the Barney the Dinosaur movie. We got the Barney the Dinosaur movie that has been announced is going to be produced by Daniel Kaluuya's production company, which is sort of weird. I didn't know he had like that big of a production company, but apparently he does. And apparently he does have a production company, and they're doing this Barney movie. It sounds sort of, I'm not sure what the take is going to be. Barney is sort of a weird property in that you would think it kind of disappeared in like a good way or something, but it really just like sort of went off the air quietly and no one noticed. Like I thought, like, how come no one's done a What Ruined Barney video? And then I researched it and I go, because he just sort of ended. It didn't really mean anything. But I love Daniel Kaluuya's kind of trailer. Okay, Buster. Anyway, I love Daniel Kaluuya's quote from the Barney movie. I want to read this in as serious of a voice as I can, while my cat meows like crazy. Barney was a ubiquitous figure in many of our childhoods. Then he disappeared into the shadows, left misunderstood. That is his real quote about the Barney movie. I'm just like, what? I don't get it. Is Barney gonna be Batman? Oh man, I hope they have a scene where Barney's mom's pearls fall on the ground in Crime Alley. All right, so next up, this was released kind of on Twitter, not really released, but it is the Cartoon Network Hotel. Apparently, it is very much they're very much still making it, believe it or not, guys. And that's one of them. I know people from the cartoon community keep saying they're going to do like a meetup there. Here's another image that's from Adventure Time. Do we have let's get another image there. It looks kind of crappy. It's in PA of all places, which is not maybe the greatest in terms of I don't really get like what they're doing with this hotel, but yeah, it's in PA. I don't really know what's going on with it. But it sounds it looks all right, but I don't really understand why it's in the middle of nowhere, like why it's not in a major city. Like that doesn't really make any sense to me. Like why would you not do that? But that's what it looks like. In case you wanted to see it, those were released on Twitter. Someone saw what it was there, but apparently like people really still want there to be a Cartoon Network a Cartoon Network hotel My cats are like not behaving tonight. I don't know what's going on. Did you guys like give them catnip or something before? Uh, sorry. Thank you, Nijikichi, for encouraging me with the stream. I'm trying to get a little better. I know that's like very basic sort of stuff, but I try to get better. But yeah, that's what it is. We'll see if the cartoon community keeps saying we're going to do a meetup there, possibly. I wouldn't be down. It'd be funny if we all went and Sophie was the only kid there. That sort of makes me laugh. It'd be the round table and Sophie. But I think I would be interested in going if there was something else there, but it looks like in the middle of nowhere, and it looks like one of those depressing hotels. You'd be like, who would stay there and why? And you're like, oh, just for the Cartoon Network thing. It looks like a nice little road trip if you live around there. If someone does make a video, I think if you live on the East Coast and you have a car, just go to it. You have a video there that you could go to. But that's the Cartoon Network Hotel. It's still under construction. They're still making it. I'm very curious what it's like when it opens. But like, who's gonna get stuck in the We Bare Bears room? Who's gonna be in like the Clarence room, the Gumball room? I'm very curious about what iconography is within it, but it looks like more of the mainstream stuff. Like, I doubt it would have Mau Mau or OKKO or something like that. Probably Steven Universe, but I didn't see any on those pictures. But anyway, they're still definitely making. It's gonna happen. I'd love to be at the grand opening if they would put me up for free. I would definitely go. I don't know. I think my cats have calmed down. All right, we don't have too many things, and then it's going to be the the Infinity Train shorts reviews, and then Patreon questions, and then real questions, and all that stuff. The Problem Solvers room, good call there. The regular show room, I would demand to stay in. I would be like, if I'm not in the regular show room, I'm going to the Super 8 motel down the street. That's my policy. Keystone, PA. Ugh, doesn't sound great. Apparently, the SpongeBob movie, they will film a TV special of the SpongeBob. Wow, okay, let's start over. Apparently, the SpongeBob musical, they're going to film a TV special of it. It has not been on Broadway for a while, even though it has quite a cult following. I hear about it regularly, and not just from people who like animation and SpongeBob and stuff. I actually regularly hear about it from people. And that special is going to air in December. I think it'll be great for the musical because it'll give it a lot of new life. I think they should probably, I don't understand why they don't make one of the movies the musical. I mean, you have it right there. It makes sense to me. But I am curious about it. I never saw the musical. I should have. Nolan, I think, gave me shit for it at some point, but rightfully so. But yes, that is definitely happening. Two Venom news things. The director of the last Venom movie, Ruben Fleischer, who just had his new movie come out, Zombieland Double Tap, said that he thinks Spider-Man and Venom will face off together, and that was always the plan. And then we heard that Shriek, and then we heard that there's going to be another character in Venom called Shriek, who will be Venom's love interest. And then we heard that Naomi Harris is in talks for that character. So Venom is coming together, I guess. And this was a funny quote, and I just wanted to tell somebody. This was apparently, so Oprah Winfrey, when she, okay, this is Oprah Winfrey's reaction to Interview with a Vampire. She went to the premiere, or went to an advanced screening, and it said, Oprah Winfrey famously walked out of an advanced screening from the movie Interview with a Vampire only 10 minutes in because of the gore and dark themes. She even considered canceling an interview with Tom Cruise promoting the film, stating, I believe there are forces of light and darkness in the world, and I don't want to be a contributor to the force of darkness. Wow, Oprah. It's just like, what the fuck? I just thought that was funny. Like, that's like you could just say, I wasn't that into it. So, whoa. Okay. Infinity Train. So as you may or may okay. So as you may or may not know, I'm quite the fan of Infinity Train. I really liked the miniseries, or first season, I guess, that aired earlier this year. And last night, I believe, two shorts showed up on the Cartoon Network app, or really just on the website. So Roundtable finally got me, and I went to the Cartoon Network app and watched these 2 shorts because I was excited for new Infinity Train content. They are 2 shorts. They're about like a minute or so long. I feel like they're on YouTube somewhere, but I'm not sure. And they're 2 kind of vlogs films made by the character One. And One is the first one, the very first little documentary One made of this idea. It's in the green car. It more is about like introducing the concept of it, and One talking about how they're making this project and everything like that. And it's really just sort of like a pilot explaining like what the format of these things are going to be. I was fine with it. That one was a little cute and everything like that. And then the other one is the Tiny Wizard Car, which is probably the better of the 2 and the weirder of the 2, and is very post-Adventure Time, which Infinity Train very much is post-Adventure Time. And it's called the Tiny Wizard Car, and it's a weirder one, and it's just all these wizards who keep repeating spells, and they'll say like spells, but they'll say it like words, and you can tell there's emotion behind it. It was really weird, and it kind of like takes over the whole little video. You only hear One introduce it, and then they go off on this like kind of like emotional exchange between 2 of the wizards just saying spells the whole time, and then it sort of ends. And that one was stranger. I kind of want more of those because the cars have all these huge, interesting, amazing worlds, and what I'm hoping these shorts do is they get into the freeness and the weirdness of Infinity Train and everything it can do, and the Tiny Wizard Car gave me that. The Green Room sort of didn't, but I understand, or the Green Car, I'm sorry, the Green Car sort of didn't give me that, but I felt the Green Car needed to be that so he can introduce the concept. The first one was the first one. This one was like 1.4 million because they had a break apparently. Because they were no longer the conductor. So I'm assuming one takes place before the show, one takes place after, depending on if you think there are other times that One hasn't been the conductor, which is a possibility. I mean, not to throw out a crazy theory, but it might not be the show. One does not refer to anyone or any character within the show, the season of Infinity Train that we have seen. So it could be something else, but most likely that's not the case. I'm just throwing it out there. But they were really cool shorts. If you can just go to the Cartoon Network website or app, you can check those out. I'm not sure if they leak to YouTube, but if you're an Infinity Train fan, they're worth checking out. If you're not an Infinity Train fan, you should hop up on the train. But I would recommend both of them, especially the Tiny Wizard, especially the Tiny Wizard Car. I thought the Tiny Wizard Car was a really great short, and of the 2, I think that's the one I prefer, and I always want more Infinity Train content, and I hope they release more of these shorts before whenever the next season comes out. All right, sorry about that. So I have 3 Patreon questions, and then we'll go on to the other questions, and yeah. Okay, so let's go on. Let's do the Patreon questions right now. If you would like to be a patron, the link to my Patreon is in the info box below, as well as the Audible link if you'd like to support the show that way, and there's super chat in a lot of ways. But just, by the way, just liking this show, or any of my videos, or watching them is fine enough. So don't feel obligated to do anything, but if you would like to, I very much appreciate it, and helps keep the lights on and keep this show going. All right, so the first question from Will, saying, I'm really pumped for Alex Garland's original upcoming FX sci-fi series, Devs. Trailer looked pretty sick. My question today is, do you think Garland still has a place for turning out cool original blockbuster stuff, or do you think the shenanigans Paramount pulled when distributing Annihilation kind of scared studios away from potential projects with him? I sort of think that could not work out for him, but as I was saying before with the streaming services thing, I think it might be more of a streaming service thing, future for Alex Garland. That's honestly what I think is going to happen with more of the interesting, weirder stuff. It's just, is he going to be able to spend that kind of money he did with Annihilation? I don't know about that part, but I think it is a possibility he'll get to do stuff. I don't know about theatrically. I think he might have to rein his ideas in budget-wise if he wants to do that, or get a movie star to do one of his crazy projects. That's kind of what I'm thinking would happen right now. Sorry. The next Patreon question is from Reanimated Jesus. Who this came from a longer thing, but I'm just going to read part of it when he was talking. He did suggest A Day Without a Mexican, which finally got reviewed this week. But anyway, I'm sorry if I outed him for suggesting that. If you didn't want that, I apologize. Should certain films exclude important cultural elements to accommodate the current cultural climate? For example, Harriet Tubman was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment for obvious reasons. I haven't seen the new Harriet Tubman biopic. It's not out yet, but anyway, I haven't either. But I'm very curious of how they will handle the topic of Second Amendment, because modern audiences are not pro-gun rights. Should they ignore it or bring attention to it? It's an important cultural element that it's hard to ignore. Thanks, Jim, for the thoughtful responses. Oh, thank you. I think if it is important part of the story, I can tell they're kind of making... I don't know enough about Harriet Tubman to be sure that they're doing anything inappropriate. I know they're definitely in the trailer at least making her... she is a total badass, but I think they're very much playing up that element. But at least in the trailer, I haven't seen the movie. I don't think they should erase it if it is an important part of who she is and what she is as a story, and I don't think you should naturally do that. I know people do that a lot now because they don't want to alienate audiences, but I don't think you should, as long as it's an important part of the story. If it distracts too much from it, or it's too much of a sideline thing to the ultimate thesis of the film, no, you shouldn't do it, despite the fact that it really happened. Because ultimately you're telling a story of a film, even though you're telling the story of that person, of that real life person. So, you should really, when you're making a biopic, there's a reason Amadeus is really great, or Rush. I've been talking to people, Rush I keep talking to people about, because of Ford versus Ferrari, or things like that. They care more about telling, or The Social Network, they care way more about telling the story of the film than just telling the story of someone's life. And I think that's what makes those films far more interesting, is because they care far more about the story. And that's what should always be important for a biopic, not just making sure you get all the details. But changing that because of the cultural... If you're changing that because you're afraid people who would see the Harriet Tubman film would not really want to hear about being pro-Second Amendment rights, then I think that would be inappropriate. If you're just doing it for that reason. But you shouldn't be a filmmaker then if you're not going to be brave like that. Or that filmmaker shouldn't. I didn't mean that directed towards you. Reanimate Jesus. You're great. All right. This is from Sinram. Again, you should check out his channel. Ever have dreams, the subconscious while sleeping kind, involving actors or other film professionals? A recent dream I had took place in a diner, and Robert De Niro was cooking eggs for me. I must have especially been hungry at the time. I almost want to just leave it at that, because that's pretty perfect. I don't know what to say to that. Okay, it's not really okay. So when Community was newer, this is sort of unrelated, but I'm going to tell you this anyway because at least it's at least funny. When Community was maybe first, second season, and they had the character of Magnitude who would go pop pop, and they had a Twitter, and if you tweeted at Magnitude, he would the Twitter account would only reply to certain people pop pop back, and I got replied pop pop back in the day. And I was like really happy about it. And then I went to bed, and then I was sleeping, and my wife said, while I was sleeping, I actually said, pop pop Magnitude while I was sleeping. I don't remember this, but true story, apparently. All right, so let's answer some questions. I see you guys have already been asking me questions. Anyway, start asking questions, because let's answer as many as we can. I see people were at a certain point. I hope I can get... I haven't seen the new Blues Clues yet, Niji Kichi, but they're playing a lot of promos for it on Nick Jr. Recently, because Sophie watches a lot of that. So I'm not sure when it premieres. I guess it has. Maybe Sophie and I will watch it. I don't know. She's gotten into Dora, so I don't know. All right, so Tyler asked, question, why does Bill Murray have to be in every Ghostbusters movie for? I don't know. Did he announce it? It seems like he's going back and forth on that. What's the worst, Ryan Walterson, what's the worst trailer for the best movie? I would say, man, the camera's getting out of focus a lot. But then when I look at OBS, we're all good. I think it's YouTube's fault. Anyway, what's the worst trailer for the best movie? I really hated the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon, the original one. I really hated it a lot, and I almost didn't see that movie. And then my friend was like, "Get over your stupid self and see it." And I love How to Train Your Dragon, so I would say that. And I still don't really like that. I like it a little more now, but I don't love it. Niji Kichu, question: people have always said that Jim Henson died too soon. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen if he had lived an extra 10 years? What if he never took puppetry and never made the Muppets? Whoa, okay, damn, Niji Kichu, shit. If he had lived an extra 10 years, the Disney Muppets buyout thing would have happened. He would have become kind of the chief creative officer of Disney. I think that would have been a lot different. I don't know if that would have affected the Disney Renaissance necessarily, but we would have definitely gotten a fourth. Muppets movie. I don't think we would have gotten Muppets Christmas Carol unless Ryan Walterson knows something different, which I'm sure he does. I think things would have been dramatically different for Jim Henson and Disney, but I think that deal would have gotten taken, finalized, and he would have gotten to do some interesting creative projects. But that means he would have died right around 9/11, and that, I don't know, that sounds horrible. It's still horrible he died, but yeah. All right, sorry. I don't. What if he never took puppetry? That would have been horrible. I mean, I don't want to think about that either. I don't really like. I don't like the idea of that, to be honest. I think that sounds like it sucks. And never made them up. That just makes the world sounds worse. Then I don't know. I'm not sure what he would have done. I think he would have been a filmmaker, definitely, and would have continued that. But he would have. You didn't say Sesame Street, but I guess he never done puppetry. I think he would have just become a great filmmaker, an experimental filmmaker. Ryan Walterson, favorite good song from a bad movie. Where There's a Whip, There's a Way, Return of the King. Okay. Adrian Sierra, now Bill seemed to get quite attached, probably due to the quality of the snatch. He was the man making Jane shout and moan through her hole he could never really own. Wow. I should have thought about that. Any news on Juana Man? I think it's going to happen before the end of this year. That's all I will say. Ace Winrider, if given the chance to own your own theater, what would you call it, and what would make it stand out? I would probably play a lot of older stuff. I would definitely, I don't know what I would call it. There was a theater in Baltimore called the Hippodrome, and when I was a kid, I used to draw movie posters for it because it was closed down. I had I think I wanted it to be totally like movies starring fish, but they'd be parodies of regular movies. So they're like Fish Busters and stuff. I remember drawing those. I do not think any of those drawings are still around anywhere, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But that does sound really cool, doesn't it? Oh no, I lost my place. Okay, Jim, what do you think? What did you do to get the cops chasing you? I'm not telling you. I'm not snitching on myself. Question from Nathaniel Foga. Have you ever gotten into anime? I have watched some anime. I used to get into it in the 90s. I don't think I'm fully a weeaboo or anything like that. I haven't gotten into it as much as some of you guys have. I'd like to know more, but it's always hard to get into stuff. Ella Cesari, I guess. What film that you saw at an Alamo Draft House has been your favorite experience? My first time was today, and I really enjoyed it. Well, congratulations. I'm glad you had a great theatrical experience. I got to go during one of the early test runs on in the Alamo House, Brooklyn, and I got to see The Handmaid, I believe. That was really great. Seeing Once Upon a Time in America when I got the film strip, which is up there somewhere. That was a really great time. When I saw Mandy, that was really cool. I saw some friends there I hadn't normally. Deadpool 2 was a lot of fun. I'm not the biggest Deadpool 2 fan, but I thought that was fun too. And I think that's all of them, maybe? Yeah, let's say that. Yeah, but I'm glad you had a good theatrical experience. That's cool. Alex T-Rex, question. The rumor is that Ant-Man 3 is going to come out in 2021. Who would you like the plot to be and the villain to be? I have heard the opposite about Ant-Man 3. I've heard it's like maybe not going to happen at all. I don't really know enough about Ant-Man, but I would hope they just have more for Luis to do, who Michael Pena plays. So, Retrozoid. I wasn't there last week, but I wanted to mention a fun fact about Galador, the last Fox Kids show, as the show was made by Lego to get another Bionicle-like success, but failed due to the toy sold badly. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't really know that, but that's interesting. Question: if drinking Red Bull gives you any particular superpower, what would your power be? To stay awake. That's pretty much why I drink it. Maybe flight. That would be cool. That would probably be it. Sorry. I can't pronounce your last name well. I'm sorry. The long-awaited return, at least for me, for Ilya Nashali's new film, Nobody, is set for August 2020, and it just started filming 2 days ago. Oh, that's not a question, but I read it anyway. Okay. Would you have... I guess I should have read that. Sorry. Would you have interest for that, Jim? Yeah, that sounds cool. I heard Christopher Lloyd got attached to a project. I didn't realize who was directing it. I haven't seen a trailer. I'd have to see a trailer and depend on what's coming out that week and what's going on in my life and everything. But that sounds interesting to me. So yeah, the Addams Family 2, it's gonna happen from Sudden Grinder. Yeah, I hope that one's much better. That would be cool. Cornbread, what do you think the worst possible Nicktoon to adapt into a live action film? Cat Dog. That would be horrific. Seriously. Nijikichi question, do you still have the original files for Knock Force, and if so, can we get a Blu-ray of the series? I don't think there's any real plans for a Blu-ray. It's all on YouTube. I think that's probably the best quality it's going to do. I do have those backed up somewhere, so do not worry about that. But there are no plans, to my understanding. We haven't really talked about it, but I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest. The nerdification. Sorry, it's getting late. Who would you want to play Adam Warlock in the MCU? What do you want to see in Guardians 3? Well, I want to see Adam Warlock. I'd like to see them still have fun. I feel like it's going to be such a long break. I'm curious how they're going to deal with that. Who to play Adam Warlock? Honestly, if Mads Mikkelsen hadn't been picked for that Doctor Strange thing, I would have gone that. I don't know, to be honest. Adam Warlock's one of my dad's big characters. Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange, and Adam Warlock. So it'd have to be someone my dad would approve of, frankly. If it was back in I would like Rutger Hauer if it was the 80s, but he can't do it. So I'm not exactly sure who you'd get to do it. But I would like them to get weirder and more cosmic in 3. I wasn't as big a fan of 2, so I'd like them to kind of go off in a weirder direction. But I think it's been long enough that they definitely can do that. Man, I don't know. I would have definitely go Rutger Hauer, but I guess he can't do it. So I don't know. Someone who could do the kind of the ego of it and the weirdness of it. I really don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe, no, I don't know. All right, Zane Powers. I have an idea for a super chat segment. There were videos I liked when I was young and dumb that had really bad takes. Would you be willing to give thoughts on these hot takes if you agree or not? Oh, yeah, if you want to do that, you can do it right now while we're answering questions. If you're into that, I will listen to your old hot takes, and if you want to do that on Super Chat, that would be appreciated. Thank you. These are videos videos you liked when you were young and dumb that had really bad takes. I mean, I guess I'll click on them. I don't know if I can watch them all, but I'll just go through them really quickly. If you want to do that, I'm still here, I guess. Okay, Bill Murray. Oh, he is. Yeah. Okay, maybe Bill Murray is happening. Let's see. Ryan Walterson. Favorite Canadian TV show you've seen, old or recent? I was really into Degrassi for a while. I haven't really ever gotten into my Degrassi fandom, but I was really into it. So I'd probably say that, but maybe let's just go that. I know it's a cliche, but nerdification. Besides X-Men and Spider-Man, what are your favorite Marvel titles? Maybe Silver Surfer, probably. Question: could Sophie surpass you in reviewing movies and shows? Also, future Sophie would not drink Diet Red Bull. Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't mind if she did, to be honest with you. But that would be up to her. What's the number one show you're sad didn't make it to Disney Plus yet? Didn't Dinosaurs not make it? I would definitely say that if that's true. Are there any parenting techniques that most parents do that you disagree with and don't do with Sophie Zane Powers? I probably shouldn't say that, but it'd probably be like not hitting your kids. Also, I don't know. I think maybe just not listening and not watching, and I don't know. I do a lot of things like getting her into stuff, so like cartoons. So I would say stuff like that. Have you seen any Amazon funded movie? Oh, that brings up a question I wanted to bring up. I have seen a few, and one that's really good with Joaquin Phoenix is are you even? Damn it, I can't think of it. Hold on. What is it? Sorry, brain's not. You Were Never Really Here. You Were Never Really Here. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a great movie. It's directed by Lynn Ramsey. Check it out. I really like it. I think it almost made my top 10 last year. Shark Tales, Fish Police. I haven't seen Fish Police, but Saber did a good video. Shark Tales I have seen recently. It's awful. I should do a review at some point. How good is Dave Bautista? He's pretty good. I like him. He should be in more movies. I think he's cool. What's this one with all the memes? So yeah, Disney's Pinocchio remake, 0 out of 10. It's one of those Disney live action films. Also, every character cannot sing. Who gave them singing? Sorry. Come on, maybe a new quickie. I don't think so. Sorry. How much super chat money will it take to get you to talk about Game of Thrones more? I mean, I can talk about it. I just don't really like it. But if you can just, I don't need a certain amount. You can just do a super chat, and I usually answer any of them. So any question you want, frankly. What TV stations in your, this is from Rough Night, sorry. What TV stations in your local area used to play cartoons or have specific kids blocks back in the peak of syndication eras like the 80s or 90s? I wasn't here when a lot of that was going on, but when I was in Baltimore, there was Fox 45, there was the UPN, then I would say Fox 45 did a lot of it, and that's how I watched a lot of that stuff. So, yeah. Yo, Mr. Jim, you know what that means. Sorry. I just start reading them because I think they're all questions. Do you think, this is Austin T-Rex, do you think HBO's Watchmen will be good, and what's your general thoughts on the Watchmen comics? I like Watchmen comics. I think the problem with it is there's stuff that, there's a super chat in here I didn't even see. Example, top 10 saddest movie moments, order 66. I don't know that video, but saddest movie moments. I wonder what the saddest movie moment. If Grave of the Fireflies is not number one, then that video is a sad movie moment. Order 66. Oh, from the Sith. That's not sad. It's sad because it sucks. Maybe that. I don't know. Okay, sorry. Going back up. Let's see what else. Question. What should I watch to tide me over until Primal Part 2 or just as similar? You should watch Fury Road again, maybe. I don't know. That would be up there. I don't know if there's anything other than that. Have you seen Wizards from Ralph Bakshi, one of my all-time favorites? I have. I would like to do a review of it one day. I don't think I have any plans right now, but I have seen it. It's pretty cool. Ryan Walterson, what does Out of the Box and the Book of Pooh make it? How does Out of the Box and Book of Pooh make it to Disney Plus before Bear in the Big Blue House? Wow, you're not happy about Bear in the Big Blue House. I don't know their plans and how they're like making it out to do these things. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Number one in that list was Snape's death. That's not the saddest. What? That list sucks. What? That's terrible. Like, come on. Grave of the Fireflies or like Citizen Kane or like, the Zapruder movie. I don't know. TV has fatherhood ever changed your perspective on a certain movie or TV show? Probably newer ones. I can't think of any older ones I've seen, but watching Wizard of Oz with Sophie was a whole different experience. So I would say it's changed a lot of newer stuff that I've watched with her. Also, Zane Powers, thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate your support, by the way. Paul Zezik, let's say. Okay. Did you see the recent trailer for the dark comedy Judy and Punch? No, but I wanted to. It sounded interesting. I should have watched that, and I wanted to check up on that before, and I didn't. So, hashtag justice for Bear. Ryan, you're funny. What's the worst movie you cried at? I cried at The Odd Life of Timothy Green. What's the worst movie I cried at? Maybe like Homeward Bound 2. I credit that as a kid and I rewatched that. It's like not that great. Which Degrassi series, Next Generation or the original? I have the original Degrassi, including Kids of Degrassi Street, which is why I ask. I mainly watched Next Generation. I watched Junior High. I've never seen Kids of Degrassi Street, but I did have Degrassi High on DVD, and I probably have it somewhere. I'm not sure where. I think it's in a binder now. Anyway, My Girl Was a Sad Death. Where's that on the list? That's a good point. Wait, the guy who said that about Wizards being owned by Disney just blew my mind. All right, I think I've done. Have I done everything? I think I've done everything. I think that's everything. Oh, yeah, I wanted to say about the Joker. If you really like the movie The Joker, there are a couple movies to check out. Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, and You Were Never Really Here are all really great movies. You Never Really Here is on Amazon Prime. Stars Joaquin, gives a really good performance. He's about a contract killer who saves children who've been taken away and who were taken away into the sex trade, who is run by some of the biggest, most powerful people in the world, which at the time seemed unrealistic and now doesn't. It's a great movie. You should check it out. Zane Powers, Marley and Me, and 7 Pounds Endings were on there. What the fuck? This is a lame list. Who made this lame list? Anyway. I haven't read the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. But anyway, so I think we're going to kind of end things. Thank you, Zane Powers, for all the super chats at the end. The Red Bull's empty, so it's time to go, baby. But I put out a lot of good stuff this week. From A Day Without a Mexican came out like the next day after this. Then Addams Family, my Addams Family review, my review of Zombieland, a double tap. I got to go to an advanced screening because of, hold on, I have flyers for all these things. KCBC, which is a beer company in Brooklyn, if you can see that. Fun fact about them: their labels are drawn by the same guy who made, my logo guy of me. He does all the labels for that beer company, and they're great. I also got this awesome little thing. Look at that, reserved Sony ticket. I love this. But yeah, I got to see that early. I don't think it'll ever happen again. I was like a guest. I never get to see things early. Then after that was the Popeye thing, which was a segment from the last movie crap. I think that's going to be the Infinity Train review, most likely. And then after that, Jojo Rabbit. So it was a crazy week, and the Saber Sparks video about Fritz the Cat, which I helped write and do research for. So it was a busy week in terms of content. Crazy. I didn't get to be on the pizza party, and that sucked. Jumping off the roof like a Spider-Man song 2. I don't know when that's happening. The next month video I might have out this week. I'm trying to finalize July, and there were issues with getting files transferred, so it's really just a file thing and not having time. But I would like to finish that soon, hopefully this week. So that's what's going on with that. I think there'll be interesting stuff. I hopefully will get Primal done. I don't know when. There's going to be some Halloween-ish stuff as well. And I want to thank you all for making these 10 episodes of Movie Crap, all the super chats everyone's done. Please check out the Audible link. It is a 30-day free trial for Audible. Just click on the link in the description. It's audibletrial.com/moviecrap. And if you sign up for the free trial, it supports the show and helps keep the lights on and everything like that. So thank you if you do that. Let me know if you do, and I will give you a big thank you. Yeah, anyway, you guys have a good night, have a good Saturday. And I think that's it. I think that's how we're ending it. And I'll see you guys next. Oh, this wasn't an especially long one. I don't know why I was being weird about that. But anyway, you guys have an especially great Saturday. Have a good week, and I will be back next week, hopefully with better news and all that stuff. See you then, and bye.